Welcome to the Smarter Money Life podcast powered by Forum Credit Union, your go-to podcast for all things personal finance, where we break down complex financial concepts into simple, actionable steps. Whether you're looking to save more, invest wisely, or plan for your future, we've got you covered. Join us each episode as we bring you expert insights, real-life stories, and practical tips to help you live a smarter money life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Smarter Money Life podcast. I'm your host, Andy Mattingly, and today we're diving in a topic that I think is really important, and it's about setting kids up for financial success. So we're going to talk about how to teach younger kids about money and why it's so important. Joining me today are two very special guests, Nicole Hood, CEO and founder of My First Nest Egg, and Annie Schoen, COO and co-founder of My First Nest Egg. We're going to learn more about what My First Nest Egg is in this conversation, but more important to this is they're both mothers of young children, and in creating this company, their inspiration, I think, came from their own backgrounds and life and what they're doing. So I'm very excited to have these two dynamic and visionary leaders, and I don't say that often of people that I bring on the podcast. They are dynamic and visionary. So welcome, Nicole and Annie.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be here.
Thanks, Andy.
Good. So I want to start off with kind of talking about why it's so important to teach financial concepts to younger kids, even as young as 5 to 7. Why do you guys feel it's so important?
Research actually shows that financial habits are set by age 7. Yet a lot of what we do in this country is start the financial discussion, if we started at all, in high school. But by that time, it's much too late. So Nicole and I did a lot of research before we started this company, and that showed that kids as young as 3 can actually form some of those core habits in life, such as, are you going to be a saver or are you going to be a spender? So that's one of the things that set us on our journey to creating tools that will work for young kids, not just kids in high school.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. All of my kids are in their 20s now, but I remember when they were younger and you could start telling who was going to save their money and who wasn't, even at that young age. Or, as my boys would say, how my daughter made sure that daddy paid for everything and she didn't have to use any of her money, but that's another story for another podcast. So what do you think are some of the most important first concepts to teach younger kids?
I think probably the core concept is needs versus wants. And when it really is the foundation for everything dealing with personal finance going forward. If you don't know the difference between needs versus wants, you can't set a budget. You can't really plan for the future. You don't save. You don't put everything goes in that spending bucket and everything goes out of that spending bucket. So I would really say needs versus wants is where we start with the little kids, and most of our modules really focus around that when we're starting them out, and just having them play games and figuring out, all right, if you're stranded on a desert island, what do you need to survive? And a Nintendo Switch should not be on the list. So it's really, that food, shelter, we really start with the basics and we make it fun.
Yeah, I think that's a really important concept. I like that idea of if you're stranded on an island, what do you really need? I think that's important for kids to understand that at an early age. So how can parents introduce and reinforce these concepts?
One of the key ways we talk to parents about reinforcing these concepts is teaching kids delayed gratification for their wants. If you can master delayed gratification in life, you will be financially set. So how can we teach a 3-year-old to delay gratification? That's a little bit tricky because they want it and they want it now. One of the things we built into the app is a puzzle game, which helps kids learn how to wait for something. So if your child is in the grocery store aisle and they are looking at all those amazing things that are placed exactly at eye level, and they're 5 and they're saying, I want, it's great. You can snap a picture with the My First Nest Egg app and it breaks it into a puzzle with however many pieces you want. Each piece correlates to a chore, a challenge, something you want your child to do to earn it. And then your child can earn whatever it is that they want piece by piece. This teaches them to delay gratification until they've completed the earning process. And the other thing it really teaches them is that a lot of times they don't even want it. and you can control that impulse buying very early. We find that with a lot of the kids who use the app at the end of the week, once they've earned it, they say, I don't really want that piece of plastic anymore or that candy bar. Can you please just put the money in my save account?
Yeah, I think that's funny that you say that. Everybody wants something today, but then when they can actually have it, it's like, oh, I don't really want that anymore. And that is, I think, one of the things that I think is important about this delayed gratification is when you're talking about a $10 or $15 toy, it's like, oh, but it's the delayed gratification when they're wanting to buy the $30,000 car when they shouldn't, and how important it is that they understand that maybe they don't even really want that anymore. And I think the other thing with delayed gratification that you maybe didn't say there is you've also starting to build in this whole idea of getting away from impulse buys too, because it's like, oh, I want that new pair of jeans that weren't in my budget. And then you're like, you wait a couple of days and you're like, yeah, I really got enough jeans and I don't need it. So I think you're right about how that really leads to all of these other skills or concepts that people need to understand. So I know that we've talked about the puzzle game. Is there any other ways that you can involve these activities in play activities with kids? Is there any other things that you would suggest, or maybe you've done with even your own kids?
Oh my goodness, so many ways. So we are all about fun. Nicole and I didn't really set out to start a company. We just had a lot of kids and we realized they were financially illiterate. So everything we've done is born more out of necessity than anything else. So we started looking at our own kids. How can we teach these kids? And they were all under 10 at the time. So we had to make it really fun. There are a lot of games you can play with kids. Here's one of my favorites. If you are watching a sporting event and they have commercials on, let's say the Super Bowl, you hit mute and you let your children watch it without any volume. And then they have to guess what they are selling them and how they are selling it to them. What are they using? Are they using emotional appeal? Are they using one of their heroes? How are they trying to sell them something? And that opens children's eyes to the reality that the fact is everywhere in the world, someone is trying to sell them something. And a lot of times it's not good for them. So that's one of the games that we use in our home.
Another thing is, it's always really surprising the first time you ask kids what they think something costs, what a house costs, what a car costs, and they're usually really, really, really far off. And I think when kids start to internalize the actual cost of the things that they pretty much take for granted in their lives, they have a better appreciation for the word no. And we really don't mind saying no to our children when it comes to when they want to buy something, but we always follow it up with, we're going to say no to this because we'd rather invest this in your sports lessons, which you really enjoy, rather than a piece of plastic, which will probably break. Or instead of going out to dinner tonight, let's save it for our vacation and we're going to go out to a really fun place. So we really like to set them up. The word no isn't because we're being mean. It's because we're thinking of the future and what they might enjoy more. So we build in a little bit of FOMO. All right, well, if we make this choice today, what are we going to miss out on in a month that you really wanted to do?
Yeah, I think those are great concepts. The term that I always use is that you need to make sure that kids understand all of their actions have consequences, whether it's financial or not. If you do this, there will be a consequence for it. And maybe it's good or bad. And especially when it comes to money, maybe you really want this and you don't care about going on the family vacation. At some age, kids are like, I really don't want to go on the family vacation. I want to go on my own, right?
Yeah.
But so you have to be careful with that one. But it is important. And I think what you guys just said there is so important. And I think parents have a hard time saying no. And that's really, I think, an important word that you have to understand if you really want to teach them money concept.
Well, and a big part of it is that children just don't understand. As I said at the beginning of this, it all started with our kids, and it was during COVID. They were home all the time, and they were asking all the time for things that they didn't understand cost money. So my favorite example is goggles. We live in Arizona, and the kids go through a lot of goggles because they leave them outside by the pool, and the sun bakes them, and they break. just constant. Can we order more goggles, more goggles, more goggles? And at some point, we just had to say, no, you can't order another pair of goggles unless you pay for them. Start taking care of your own things. The second your child pays for something, it's incredible how well they take care of it. As opposed to mom and dad buying it, it just bakes in the sun. So I think a lot of times kids ask for things not because they're being selfish, because they truly just don't understand the implications of asking for it. Our sons thought that free shipping on Amazon meant that things were free on Amazon. And they were probably 8 years old when they thought that. So again, it's not their fault. If I thought everything in the world was free, I would be asking for a lot of things too. They just didn't understand.
Yeah. And, I know, with some kids, the whole Amazon thing is they don't see, like, they know that if you go to the store, they see you pay with your card or something, but on Amazon, they don't see that. And they just think, oh, well, that's the free shopping place. It's not even that, so there's several reasons why Amazon can take you down a path with your kids that you don't want to do. I want to turn a little bit to the tool, which we use here at Forum, My First Nest Egg. So I'm going to let you both spend a little time on that because I think it'll be good for our listeners to understand why we're doing it at Forum, which I'll share, but also why you guys created it, which you shared a little bit, but how it works and what values and skills that it teaches kids.
Sure. As Annie mentioned, delayed gratification is a really big part of what we do, and that is built into almost every aspect of our app. And here's the thing, we're teaching our kids delayed gratification, but I don't know if you've heard about the marshmallow test, the 1970s marshmallow test that, tested and tracked a child who showed delayed gratification. The researchers gave children a marshmallow and they told them, hey, if you don't eat this right away, we're going to give you 2 marshmallows. And then they watched those kids over 30 years and they found that the kids who were able to delay gratification really had better lives, better relationships, all of that. Well, then they replicated that test several years ago. And what they actually found was a key indicator of whether a child could delay gratification was how the parents reacted. If you followed through, if you said no, but then gave it to them anyway, if you said yes and didn't follow through, what that did to a child in their ability to delay gratification, in their ability to wait, in their desire to wait. And what we've done with our app is we've made it easier for parents to follow through and to say yes or to say no. If you complete this puzzle, you earn X. Well, so many times I've made promises, and if I don't have a way of tracking it, it kind of falls away. And then your kid is a little disappointed. Or I'm more apt to say no now when my child does not complete all of the tasks or do what they're supposed to do, because there's a written record of it and they have accountability and it's so much easier. So what we've done with the app is not only give the training to the kids, but also given parents the tool to be able to follow through and track things, because my kids, all of them, have running tallies in their head of how much money they have. And that tally always goes up. Somehow it never goes down. When we can say like, oh, you spent this on, you wanted the $10 because we were at the snack bar. Okay, well now that $10 is gone, and they actually see it. My son's a bit of a video gamer, and over the course of a year, making small purchases, $3.99, $2.99. Well, I was tracking them in the app. And when we went on vacation, he saw that his sisters had almost $100 more than he did. And he absolutely freaked out. How? I do more chores. How is that possible? We went and looked in his ledger and he saw, but he says, but that was only $3.99 and that was only $4.99 and that was only, and he saw the way it added it up. And those micro purchases had such an impact on his bottom line that he changed the way that he does. He has not bought a single thing in his video games since that moment.
Well, let me back up a little bit and tell your listeners about the app. The app is basically a chore allowance and financial education tool for parents. So it is the bank of mom and dad, but in a very convenient form. There's a lot of studies that talk about cash being a really good way to teach kids about money. But the reality is we live in a cashless society now. It is very difficult to have cash on hand. So as Nicole mentioned, a lot of times you owe your kids money, but they don't get it, or they owe you money, but they don't have cash. So we wanted to make an easy way for parents to track that without having to be necessarily connected to a financial institution for the very young users. So that is why it's the bank of mom and dad. There is a spend account, a save account, and a give account. In the save account, parents can pay interest to their kids so that children can watch that balance go up if they put money in there with basically doing nothing. There's also a fun credit score game in the app so kids can see what a credit score is and just understand that it does have importance in life. And then we track chores and we track financial education. Kids can do a daily challenge and giving in a leaderboard. So parents can opt their kids in so they can see how they're doing that month compared to other children using the app. It's a very safe app. We don't ask for information about the kids. In fact, we encourage parents just to put in a nickname for their child. We, as mothers ourselves, are really concerned about the privacy of our users. So it's a family economy. It's a fun way to track spending, saving, giving in your family and to teach your kids financial education. And it is sponsored by credit unions, banks, and wealth managers. So Forum is one of our sponsors, and then they give this to all of their members and their communities for free so that all of these children get a financial education.
Andy, do you mind if I tell the story of how we met?
Yes, please do.
So when Annie and I first started, we created the app and we were using it with our kids. And then we gave it to families and our friends, and all of a sudden 80 of our friends were using it. And then we were like, hey, let's pop this in the app in Google Play Store. And we started getting hundreds and thousands of users, but we were charging people at the time. And Annie and I looked at each other and we said, are we having impact where we really wanted to? And are the families who can't afford this, how do we make this work for them? And that's when we started reaching out to partners who shared our values in giving the next generation healthy money habits. And the only people who would take my call were credit unions. And so, Andy, I started talking to you years ago, absolutely
yes.
years ago. You were one of our first users. And I was blown away with the credit union movement is their dedication to community, their dedication to instilling healthy financial habits, the lack of predatory, there's so many predatory financial institutions out there. And it was just, we felt like such a safe place working with credit unions, knowing that they really had the best interests of their communities and members at heart. And so we were saying, how do we work together? And credit unions were just this perfect situation for us because Annie and I were really good at engaging millennial parents and Gen Alpha kids. They're who we are, although we're a little older than millennial moms. So, but
I don't think so. You can say whatever you want. No one's going to know.
Yeah, that's right. You can't see the grays from here. So we knew what we were good at, and we saw the impact that credit unions had on local communities. And we said, let's join forces and bring this app into your communities. And so the app that the Forum community sees is an app from Forum powered by My First Nest Egg. And there's nothing that makes us more proud than to have our partners putting this out there and saying, we love being a part of it. It's such an honor to work in your communities in hand with you. And so that's really how we came to be an app for financial institutions. And it's just been such a fun journey, and we've learned so much along the way. And then to hear your stories, we could have only touched certain groups, and now we get to be everywhere through our partnerships.
Yes. And, the thing that we like about the app is that it's not just a place to, like, there are other services out there where they're just really trying to get people to put money out there so they can get the debit card and all of that. This is really an app that allows parents to do what a lot of them were doing anyway, which was trying to have the bank of mom and dad, but not really keeping good track of it. But there was no real financial education. And what I like about it is that it helps parents with some of these ideas and pass it along. And our kid, like your kids, my kids, not so much because they're older. My grandkids will probably be that way, but your kids are in the app generation, and that's how they expect to do things. So not only are you teaching them financial skills, but you're also teaching them how to use financial apps later and how to use an account. Because like that's one of the things that I don't think parents understand is that you actually have to learn how to use an account and a financial relationship. But you guys are really doing that, even though there is no actual money in there. It's kind of, what parents want to give to them or not. So that's what we really liked about it is, and it starts really early and can go for a long time in helping parents teach those skills, but also just helping them teach kids how to use all the financial tools that they're going to need. So it was a no-brainer for us to partner with you guys, and it continues to see traction as more and more people are using it and downloading it. And it's a key part of our strategy where we like to start with, younger kids and take them all the way through the adult to have something for them. So you guys, I always think that a lot of innovations come from solving your own problems, and you guys solved your own problems and then also solved problems for a lot of other people, which is, one of the greatest things.
But we're so excited to celebrate Youth Month with you guys this year. Credit Union Youth Month is our Super Bowl. And so we kind of go all out. And I know this year we did a galactic savings adventure to teach kids about saving and investing. And one of the neat things that we really started to understand about this next generation, they are digital natives. They love short videos. And so we have built little videos into our lessons for families. YouTube Shorts is just been a really fun way for us to have kids teach other kids about money, and to see the feedback and the excitement that kids have when they're watching another little kid explain what a 401k is and how we can make that silly and fun. It's really neat to see that. It's neat to watch how kids learn.
Yes, I agree. And I think the great thing is you guys also are bringing it to the kids, but you have different ways because everyone learns a little differently. And there's some classroom stuff that you have. You just recently announced the, like the Entrepreneur Award. Now I'm blanking on what you called it, but I just saw that. But those are fun things because you're teaching kids. I think another important skill is that, yes, mom and dad give you money and that, but you also have to think about how you're going to earn money. It's like, I think that's another important thing. You guys talked about, needs versus wants and how much everything costs. We also, as parents, need to teach our kids how they need to make money so that it's not just from mom and dad. And I think what you're doing there kind of goes into another concept for maybe a little bit older kids, but it starts thinking about, well, how do I earn money, right? Mom and dad are only going to give me so much. I need to be creative in how I want to earn money. Maybe I don't want to work at a certain place, but if I start something, then I can, be my own boss. So I think those are great things that are built into the app that I'm sure you guys did it purposely, but it also provides a great benefit for those older kids that are in the My First Nest Egg app.
Yes. So that is our My First Business contest. We do.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. It's so fun. And we get the coolest business ideas from kids. We absolutely love it. It's very easy for the kids to enter, but they spend a lot of time thinking about businesses and how they will actually make money with them. So yes, we just announced our two winners who are both in the retail clothing space, which was interesting, but they both had very, very strong companies. And we do put out a lot of other content. We started with the app because that's what we needed for our kids. But from there, we started putting out content for parents on our website. We have a lot of articles for parents of young kids, and we have articles for parents of older kids who might need to wean financially dependent older children. There is a crisis in this country right now where parents are delaying retirement because they are spending a lot of money on their adult kids and they don't know how to stop doing that. So we put out resources for them. And then also we noticed there weren't a lot of articles for children about money. Things happen all the time in the news that involve money, but it goes over children's heads, or it is in a location, a news source that parents don't want their kids reading just because it's too heavy. So We put out a lot of articles for kids having to do with money. We are about to put out one on the national debt, just so kids hear that all the time. They have no idea what it is. So how can we explain it to a 7-year-old? It actually started, I don't know if you heard about this, but it was sometime last year, there was this viral TikTok trend where people were essentially depositing bad checks into ATMs, and Chase Bank was not checking to see if there were sufficient funds, and then they were withdrawing the money. So they were taking thousands of dollars out of ATMs without sufficient funds. And it went viral on TikTok, which is incredible because it's bank fraud and it's a felony.
Yes.
But it kind of triggered something in us. Like, how do we talk to kids about this? Because it was in the adult news, but there was nothing for kids to read on it. And they are the ones who are most susceptible to these viral social media trends. So we wrote an article on it for kids, just explaining it. And we started going from there and just writing articles that kids can read and teachers can share in classrooms with activities about money trends, things happening in the financial world that they can understand.
And I think that's so important because one of the things that my wife and I have always done with our kids, and it sounds like you do with your kids, is talk about money and finances, even when they are younger, even what's going on with you. Like, I think as a society, we were raised that you don't talk about mom and dad's finances, but it doesn't help if you don't. And so all of my children are grown adults and they make good financial decisions, but it's because we shared how we made our decisions and what our consequences were. And what you guys are doing, I think, just helps parents know how to pull in the national news and put it into a child's so they can understand it. And that's so important because the more you know, right? Yep. That old saying. And I think that's what you guys help parents do, is to help your kids understand more things that's going on in the world. And then it makes sense. And, I always found with my kids, and you probably find it with yours, you're telling them something and they get a different meaning out of it. And you're like, well, you know what? That's okay that's a different meaning. You'll figure out the rest of it later, but at least you understand the basics. And I feel like that's what you all have helped create and help credit unions and others, anyone who use your app, give that tool to parents because we're all looking for help.
It is putting a complex concept into kids' terms, not as the final goal of the understanding, but as the start. And
yes.
Kind of talk about financial education, kind of like compound interest. It really grows over time, but you have to start somewhere. And starting a kid by explaining what inflation is with a silly joke, and then giving them a lifetime to build understanding, as opposed to introducing the term to them too late. Yesterday, we were talking about tariffs, and I made my 9-year-old laugh so hard because I said, well, it's also about duty. And she started laughing. And so, like talking about duty and tariff, and does she understand the tariff war happening? No, but now she knows what a tariff is. And we started it off with a funny, silly joke. And that's what kind of gives us our ideas for how to kind of take it out into the world. Like if we can make a kid laugh and interested in learning what a tariff is, then if we can capture their interest even a little bit and teach them that basic, they're going to start to learn so much more from there.
Yes. And, I think there's other things that people may not think about with this. So like my first business, if you go to business school, the 2 of my 3 kids went to business school, their freshman or sophomore year, one of the things was writing a business plan for a business, and my younger son at that school, whoever won, actually got to do the business the next semester. So they would start those businesses on campus. So, so it's like you're giving kids an opportunity to see that before they get to college and say, oh, I have to come up with a business. They might even be able to use the business they already have. So I think those are also good tools that you're talking about. There was something that someone told me once a long time ago, and I've always tried to do this, and you guys have not said this, but I think you believe this. If you allow your kids to make a mistake with money when they're younger, it's a small mistake, but they learn from their mistakes. So it's better to let them make small mistakes because you don't want their first financial mistake to be when they're 25, because then that gets into what you talked about, parents having to help their older kids out of financial mistakes. And I think that's something that you didn't necessarily say directly, but you've said it in everything that you've talked about. And I think that is so important. We all learn from things that we didn't do right and say, I don't want to do that again. So I really like that. And that's what I really like about the whole concept when I first met Nicole, about what you guys talked about and why we really wanted to be partners with you, is because we believe in those values that you're teaching younger kids. And so I applaud you both again. And like I said, I don't say visionary and dynamic very often, but you both are. And I hope you know that, because you've created something that's very valuable for every parent and every kid.
That's very kind of you. I mean, it's interesting. We didn't really start out as visionary or dynamic. It was really just the research that led us into being very dynamic about this subject. Like I said, first we realized it was our kids, then we realized it was our friends' kids, and then we realized it was the entire country. And as we said about kids, if you start talking to them about something, they start seeing it in the world. Like the second a child knows what inflation is, they're going to start hearing it and understanding what it is. That was financial education for Nicole and I. We started researching it, and then kind of everywhere we started hearing the problems it was causing, that we have mental health problems in this country related to financial insecurity and a lack of financial education. We have physical health problems related to those things. We are well over $1 trillion in credit card debt. And a lot of that starts with kids in college because they simply haven't been educated prior to that. They leave the home, they go to college, they get offered their first credit card, and that starts this horrible kind of debt cycle for them. So we truly appreciate that. It's been a journey for us, and now we are incredibly passionate about this subject. Our goal is to give every child a secure financial future. Like every child we impact and all the stories we hear, they keep us going every single day. There's nothing we love more than getting stories from parents about how the app, how the content, how the videos teach their kids about money and help them make smarter decisions in the future.
Yeah, and the truth is, Annie and I are two people, and we definitely saw the limitations of what we were able to do. And that's why our partnerships with like Forum and other credit unions around the country and financial institutions has led us to be able to be so much more effective, because we're providing the tools, but distribution is still a big piece. And that trust that you guys have with your community and saying, we think these tools are helpful, and then getting them out there. We couldn't do what we do if we didn't have partnerships to build that trust, because money is so personal. It's so scary that you want to take advice from someone you trust. And so what you guys have done for us is you vetted us on behalf of your community, and now we get to be a part of that, and so many families. So we just always have to thank you guys, because you're the boots on the ground. We get to sit up here and make the fun stuff, and we giggle all day long with making fun stuff for parents and kids. And then we're just so grateful that you're pushing it out there and being a part of it. And we just love the Forum team. Like we were talking about Youth Month stuff, and it's just great to see how excited everybody is to be a part of crafting a next generation who's going to feel better about money.
I think that's so important. Well, is there anything else you want to say or wrap up? Because we've covered a lot of ground. And once again, I really appreciate your time today. I think this is some great advice for our listeners. And it's also great for them to have been exposed to my first nest egg so they can give it to their kids or their grandkids. I mean, anyone can use it. And I want to make sure that I emphasize that. Even people who are not Forum members can download it. We do not block it. You don't have to be a member to get it. We want everyone to use it because we believe raising everyone's financial well-being just makes our community better. So we don't keep, you don't have to be a member to do it. We offer it to schools and things like that. So any final thoughts from either one of you?
I think I would leave your listeners with this thought. We get asked all the time by parents, how do I start? I'm not really secure in my finances. And how do I start to teach my kids when I don't truly understand it? And we always say, just start the conversation. You mentioned earlier that money is a very taboo topic in this country, and that is very true. It is more taboo than politics and religion. People don't talk about money. But as every single parent knows, if you don't talk about something with your children, it's not like they just don't hear about it or don't get that information from somewhere else. They will get information. It just won't be your values that you're passing down to them. So start the conversation early. Talk to your kids about money, have an open family discussion, and then you'll be able to raise kids whose values reflect your family's money values. Our platform is completely value neutral. We don't tell families what to do. We don't tell them how to spend their money. That is a very personal decision. It just gives you a way to impart those values to your own children.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you both again. That was great.
Thanks, you.
Thank you for having us.
That's all for this episode of the Smarter Money Life podcast. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found our discussion helpful and inspiring. You can find more resources on the Smarter Money Life page at forumcu.com. Remember, making smart financial decisions is a journey, and every step you take brings you closer to your financial dream. Be sure to tune in next time for more tips and insights on managing your money. Until then, stay smart and financially savvy.